Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Elliott Wave update for MATIC. Now this is from last video about 3 weeks ago I uploaded, and I was looking for either a 5-wave move to the downside as a diagonal, or this ended up being 3 as a double zigzag, and we're looking for a move to the upside between the 50 and the 618 of this move to the downside, and then continuation to the downside. So as of today, that was this area right here. We made that move up between the 50 and the 618, and we had continuation to the downside. Now, one thing we wanted to happen to keep this as a running flat, which we were tracking all the way from back here, if you remember, we were anticipating this move. We're looking for the 1-to-1, which is right here at around 81 cents. And we're looking for this to be a completed correction and move quite impulsively to the upside. We did not get that. We sold off pretty quickly through these levels, and we actually came to the 1.618 extension of this W off the X, which is still a valid WXY as a expanded flat. Although if we move much lower, I would remove this as an option. I'm going to go over the daily time frames on this because there's a lot of 3-wave patterns, and it's quite difficult to come up with a high probability count currently. You could technically count this as 5. It'd be like a micro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I like it as ABCs better. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this turn into some sort of diagonal, and we get another 3-wave move to the downside, maybe a double bottom before an attempt to the upside. We're going to talk about the other options. This is still technically my primary until it becomes invalid, but we did discuss on previous videos some other options. Invalidation on this, we're already low probability as an expanded flat for this 3rd wave to the upside. I have adjusted the pivots, assuming the low is in. It would have to get readjusted, but our 3rd wave target would be about 213 if this pivot holds and we start moving to the upside. But there's a lot of alternatives I'm considering here, and I'm going to show you those. So we're pretty close to invalidation. Obviously, complete invalidation is at the beginning of the wave. According to Binance, that's 49.24 cents. That's invalidation of this 5-wave move to the upside. Now, let's discuss some options here. I did discuss one previously where we're actually in a Y wave, which if this gets dragged out in 3s, I would make that my primary in the future. And what that looks like is this is a ABC as a flat for our W wave. We have our X wave and a Y wave as a potential triangle. Although this also has its own issues, one being the speed of this. We could get a little bit lower where we make a move up, and then I would be would feel a little bit better about this count if we make a move up and basically double bottom here. If we grind up like so, make a double bottom, then move up, it looks better. It would have the right look at this point because the sell-off is so quick, and we would consider this an option. After that, we would expect all-time highs. But as you can see, it's getting dragged out pretty far in time. I wouldn't necessarily want to wait through that. So depending what the next move is, I might consider getting out of my long-term holds, depending what the next move is. Okay, so that's suggestion number 2. Suggestion number 3 is that this is actually a triangle in itself, although it has its own problems as well, and we're currently on an E wave. In that scenario, we should defend 49.24 as well in both that bullish scenario and this one as a triangle, as you can see. and that would be if we start to get quite impulsive. I would not consider this a 1-2 anymore. I would start my count from this low. If we took off here in, say, a nice clean 5-wave move as a wave 1 and 2, I would start my count from here rather than previous over here. So that's scenario 2. Scenario 3, or scenario 4, sorry. One thing I'm considering is the fact that we could still be in a B wave, which would be quite disappointing. B waves can go on for quite a long time. If you've watched my videos, there's no time guideline for B waves, although we have kind of where we'd like to see, you know, between the 618 and the 1-to-1 in time. If we looked at our first move to the downside here, you can see we came, I think, to a 1.618. If this was a B wave here or an X wave, we could actually get extended out, and I'll show you what I mean by that. What would be disappointing is if this is a very long B wave, we could actually get an A, B, C, and we actually come to the downside, where this would become a larger WXY, like so. I hope this doesn't happen, because this would get dragged out quite a bit in time. We would get stopped out here below the 49-cent mark. We'd then most likely make a push here, and this would become a pattern in itself, and we'd be in the middle of a B wave and a larger ABC, as you can see, something like this, and then we'd get continuation to the downside to complete this larger correction. So hopefully that one doesn't happen, but if we do drop below that low, it's going to be pretty ugly. So looking for one of those scenarios to play out. There is one more I'm considering, and that's also if we move up correctively. And what that would look like is, let me put this ABC back up. What that would look like is, I was measuring these, get rid of that. So one thing about diagonals is time frames can become very quick. Let me go down to the 4-hour. You know, this is a diagonal here. I just want to show you in time how quickly they can correct. So let's put on the 382, 618. So you can see if this was our wave 1 and 2 in our diagonal, we actually corrected 382 in time of that wave 1. If we do that again for our wave 3, you can see we didn't even get a 382. Usually I put on a 30 as my minimum requirement. Just a guideline though. Let's see if we even hit that. No, not quite. So as you can see, in diagonals, we can get pretty quick corrections. So what I'm considering is if this is actually a combination in itself, and this is actually an ABC or a WXY, and this is actually our wave 1 in a diagonal. So in that scenario, out on the daily, let me get rid of these. Instead of looking for an impulse here, we'd actually be looking for a diagonal as a 3, 3, 5. And looking just to come to the 1-to-1 here of this A off this B, which is at 244, and we'd be looking for a series of 3s. Now with that, even after the fact, we'd be looking for lower lows, and this would complete a larger correction like so. But that's how we would move up correctively as a diagonal within a larger B wave. So that's the one I am considering as well. If we move in 3s, that this could be a larger wave 1. And what that would do in time, it would actually allow us to move up relatively soon if we don't move impulsively. Again, looking at the time frames of these, we get 382s. That would take us out about first week of May. where we could start moving to the upside, and this would be our first wave to the downside, or we'd get some sort of move like this and then move to the upside. So as you can see, there's a lot of scenarios. Very difficult chart. The very important thing is to keep all these scenarios bullish, and we'll be able to hone in a lot better once we get the next move. All stops would be at 49.24. Pretty low probability setups if this isn't, three-wave setups as a triangle. The one that does worry me is if we're getting some sort of fractal here, like I said, and this is connecting this previous wave with a B wave in between before we make our C wave. That would be pretty brutal. Take a long time to get that move, and we'd expect about a 1-to-1 in time for that C wave, and that would take us out to like October if this is the connector over here. So I hope that was helpful. We're currently at the 1-to-1 in time of this wave 1. So it pretty much has to happen very soon here if we're going to get that third wave to the upside. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this turn into a diagonal to the upside or that triangle. So if we drop below that 49, I will be dumping my long-term holds. I'm not currently in this for longs. I closed those way up here, if you remember. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any other ideas for this chart, let me know. But either this is our E wave in the larger triangle if we start to take off, or we're looking for further downside and a connector for this wave here. But yeah, take a look at my previous video. We called these moves, and right now looking for a recovery. We don't want to see much more downside at this point. All right, guys, that's it for MATIC. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.